Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This meeting has been noticed, and this is a regular meeting of the Cedarburg School Board of Education. This is a meeting that has had prior notices placed in the district, and additional copies were forwarded to the city and the town of Cedarburg, and the News Graphic, and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. I'd like everybody to rise and please say the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. God, you're right.
This evening we have a number of high school presentations, and to kick it off, I'll turn it over to Alan to introduce. Is that right, Alan?
No. I'm going to introduce Adam. I'll do some recognitions and then we'll introduce. Does that work?
Yep, that works, Adam. Come on up, let's do some recognitions.
Do you want the proclamations first?
We have the proclamation the first day. Thank you.
All right, so the state of Wisconsin has declared the following proclamations. Career and Technical Education Month, February 2019. National School Counseling Week, February 4th through 8th of 2019. And National School Breakfast Week of March 4th through 8th of 2019. All proclamations are posted on the district website.
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
We do Arizona National School Breakfast Week.
Oh, yeah,
We will be. Very good. All right, thank you for allowing me to share some celebrations here. I apologize, I'll be at the mic a lot tonight. But all for good celebrations here of our students. So first, we'd like to recognize our Cedarburg High School Scholastic Art Award winners. Third year here and third year that we've been recognizing students for state recognition. So congratulations also to our art teachers and our art departments for the continued success. So congratulations to our CHS Scholastic Art Award winners. Their artwork was chosen from thousands of entries for the Scholastic Art Awards at the state level. We had 3 recognized for these awards. Isabella Covert for painting received an honorable mention recognition. Bella Knuth for sculpture received an honorable mention. And Ariel Zarek, mixed media, won the Gold Key Award. So Ariel's work will go on to the Milwaukee Art Museum and then on to the national level. Congratulations to those 3 students. Future Business Leaders of America also. On Saturday, February 2nd, FBLA members traveled to Wuhan to compete at the FBLA Regional Leadership Conference. Of the 17 CHS competitors, 10 placed in the top 8. So congratulations to these students. Competing were Marissa Valdez, Anna Wallace, Greta Dane, Maddie Gesgain, Morgan Tchaikovsky. And then in 8th place for hospitality management, we have Hannah Carmichael, Olivia Samsey, and Abby Samsey. 7th place in job interview, Colin Davis. 6th place in cybersecurity, Trinity Plunk. 5th place in securities and investments, Carson Bibber. 3rd place in political science, Matt Hotch. 3rd place in organizational leadership, Evan Hopman. 3rd place in journalism, Kira Shakaman. 2nd place in organizational leadership, Sebastian Springer. 2nd place in introduction to business, Jordan Carmichael. And taking 1st place in agribusiness, Jake Roden. So students who placed in the top 3 have qualified to attend the State Leadership Conference in Green Bay the 2nd week of April. So congratulations to all of those students. It's now my pleasure to introduce one of our staff members who we are recognizing tonight, Ms. Elizabeth Maslick. Congratulations to Ms. Maslick, who was recognized with the National Museum of Math 2018 Rosenthal Prize for Innovation in Math Teaching. She created the single best math lesson for her students in a competition against math teachers nationwide. So her math lesson, which she'll be explaining a little bit about tonight, took 1st place of all of the lessons that were submitted all over the country. So congratulations to her. She recently got to travel out, be recognized, and our school is also recognized in the National History Museum of Math for forever, basically. So thanks to her. So congratulations to Miss Elizabeth Maslick.
choose 6 different shapes out of 22 pre-selected shapes, and they trace them, they measure them, they create their dartboard, and they are going to now analyze the dartboard by finding theoretical probability and experimental probability. So the theoretical probability, they are measuring, finding the area. The experimental probability was our problem. We did this project for 4 years, and the students were dropping paper clips randomly, and they actually started like just 100 times, and it's really hard to get it to random. So then we've also had students take a marker and turn around 100 times and randomly hit the dartboard. And it's really hard to be random when you're kind of aiming for, like, you're not supposed to aim for a shape, but you kind of do. So our students were showing me that at the end of the project for 4 years, that they really were not understanding the learning goals, and that was a concern. And so I realized we have to either not do the project, or we're going to put technology into it. So what I did 2 years ago was contact Steve Phelps, who is a math teacher in Ohio, who does a ton of GeoGebra programming, and contacted him and got some code because I needed help. And so I called him, and now what our students do is they take a picture of their dartboard, they import it into their own GeoGebra file, and they do programming. And you can see what happens. It's really efficient and effective. It's random, and every time you hit the random point generator, you get 100 more random points. So you get the experimental probability a lot of trials instead of one that takes like half a period dropping 100, and it's still not random. So it's fun for students to be successful in coding, most of them for the first time, and we see results right away. The issue with this, which is not really an issue, but it created a need for more technology. And because we have so many experiments now that we now are using spreadsheets. So we analyze the data for the whole class to talk about like where the shape is, does it matter with experimental probability, and then the students have to create their own spreadsheet using Google Sheets. And this is the first time for many of our students creating their own spreadsheet, and it's really fun. Some of the students have used the language I'm coding in Sheets because they have to code finding calculations of area and sums, and it's fun to hear them use that language. And a lot of our students, because they're successful coding in GeoGebra and coding in Google Sheets, that some of our students now are signing up more for coding classes, which is fun, just giving them some positive experiences in geometry. They also have to use the Google Sheets to answer questions and organize it so it looks nice. Answering the questions, now I see these last 2 years that we've done the technology, they understand the learning target. So they understand the difference between experimental probability and theoretical probability. And it is so exciting as a teacher to see that they're understanding, and it's fun for me to see success of the students. And they're having fun with the coding. And they have fun, you know, doing this too. But this creates the need of technology. So I want to thank you guys for supporting us with technology. Having the Chromebooks available for our students every day is amazing. And using GeoGebra, which is a free software program for math, is really helping our students understand concepts quicker and a lot better than they have before. Because of this opportunity of winning the prize, I was able to visit MoMath in New York City and meet a lot of mathematicians and math professors from all over the world, and I'm bringing back that information here, and they still want to meet with me for like years to come, which is really exciting. So Cedarburg's name is in MoMath, and I'll be representing them at National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, and working with GeoGebra, the creators of GeoGebra, the Marcus from GeoGebra. I'll be meeting him in San Francisco at the NCTM meeting, and he lives in Austria. So this is a worldwide thing, which, and I'll be speaking at WMC too in the spring. So this is exciting, and this brings us to more worldwide recognition with Cedarburg with our coding club. So thank you.
Questions, board members, for Elizabeth before she sits down?
What grade levels are you typically doing this with?
Mostly, yeah, freshmen and sophomores, and then we have some juniors also in the geometry.
Really interesting.
Yeah, very fortunate to have her on staff. Obviously, you can tell everybody thoughts when it comes to teaching math and her passion. You don't, those aren't things you can teach, so we're really lucky to have Ms. Natalie on staff. We go on to our final recognition of the night. If you look at, I think Mr. Armour calls it the YouTube channel, last year I stood up in front of you and said that the coding, what our coding club did was one of the coolest things I've seen in education. And who would have thought that they could have outdone themselves this year. Awesome to watch them, and congratulations. So congratulations to our CHS coding club, led by the CHS teachers Mike Cullen and Stacy Lesmeister. The group won the Zero Robotics World Championship at MIT on January 28th, 2019. Their code written for the International Space Station simulations was the #1 code, beating out teams from all over the world. So an awesome accomplishment. Congratulations to Mike Cullen, Stacy Lesmeister, and the following students: Ryan Monsnyder, Abby Vigato, James Cullen, Spencer Schoenberg, Martin Digis, Owen Wolf, David Liu, Elliot Fairchild, Ellie Erdl, Joy Mickelson, Thomas Crow, and Max Schmidt. Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody. I'm just going to introduce our team, let you know who is all on here. So seniors, it was me, James Cullen, and Ryan Juan Snyder, Marty Digest, Spencer Schoenberg, Abby Pigato. Those were our seniors. Juniors, we had David Liu and Elliot Fairchild, maybe? Then Ellie Erdl and Joey Mickelson were our two lowerclassmen. Ellie was a sophomore and Joey was a freshman, which is awesome.
So the Zero Robotics competition started in September and went through 3 qualifying rounds, and it began with over 200 teams from around the world. You can see on the left there was our part of our code. It was written in C++, and on the right you can see the virtual environment in which we used to run our code for the first 2 rounds. This code is written for the International Space Station.
Every year MIT makes a new challenge, and it's always related to research that they're currently conducting. So this year it was about space debris, because their concern is all the debris in orbits out in space, because even a small particle can hit like the International Space Station or something and cause some damage. So our challenge was to get one robot to rendezvous with another one, and then for them to hook together, and the first one to tug the second one back. And it was the most difficult challenge in the 10-year history, because everything just has to be so precise. The angles are really specific in space, and then if you just knock it a little bit, everything can go off course.
All right, so for after the semifinals, if you qualify, you're no longer working as your own team, you're working with an alliance of 2 other schools. So the rules are that you can only have 2 schools from the same continent. So in our case, we created an alliance with Stuyvesant High School, which is in New York, and that is one of the top public schools in the U.S., and they even have 4 graduates who won Nobel Prizes. And then we were paired with another school from Italy, which was Liceo Scientifico Avogadro, which was a scientific high school in Italy. And then there was us. Our name was Spaghetti Code. We made a funny name for our team. And then we also got to communicate with other teams and work on the code. So David and Marty will talk a little bit about that. Oh.
Who's in the picture?
Oh yeah, Stuyvesant is in the blue shirts in the picture, and then the school from Italy was in the finals at Europe.
So we used many mobile apps to like text and call the other teams, even when they were sleeping, because time changes. We sometimes met up and downtown Cedarburg to just call them and run some code. And that was it, basically.
Next, we have a video from our competition. So this is when our code was running on the International Space Station. You can see we are in the blue robot. Well, our code is in the blue robot, and it's going to rendezvous with the red robot.
Yes, it is, and we're seeing that they're going really, really close right there. That looks really amazing.
So we're about to look at it. It's very delicate.
And I would suggest be ready with that H key in case they actually cool. It looks really close. I would consider that if you can press the H key, that'd be great.
And the astronaut looks very, very happy.
There's two, there's an American astronaut and a Russian cop.
Okay, we set the H, and we are hooked on the.
Congratulations to Naughty Dog Spaghetti, Cook on Hook, and they are pulling right now. And we'll see if they get a higher score. Definitely they have a high score already. And they're supposed to now pull the red satellite to get towards Starboard.
Okay, so now we'll just talk about a little bit about like what this meant to us, Ryan.
To me, it meant an opportunity that I might not ever get ever again, which was to directly interact with the International Space Station. That is quite literally the edge of science, as it is.
I think it was very inspirational working with all of the MIT professionals that were there to help us advance in our path, and as well as all of the supporting members at our school district, Mr. Collin, Ms. Lesmeister, and all of the other students. It was really wonderful experience.
So another great thing about the trip was that we got the opportunity to meet with Andros Lulos, who is a former CHS graduate who, after going to Northwestern, is now working on his PhD at MIT. And what was really cool about this was that we got to tour his lab and see the things that he's working on right now, which you don't get to do very often. I mean, once people graduate, usually they just kind of are off and gone. But I mean, we could talk to him and see what he's doing now. And that's kind of what we could look into doing in the future. So that was really cool. Other than that, we met with him for dinner and he was a cool guy.
Big thanks to Brian Fairchild. He was the chaperone for the trip, so did a good job watching us. He was a photographer, so he was taking pictures of us the entire time. And he also got us really good tickets at a Celtics game. So he did a good job with that. We couldn't have done that by ourselves. And then he was also a tour guide for Boston. He seems to know what he was doing. So, yeah, thanks.
And then I just have a couple more acknowledgements. Anytime you travel with kids, it's great fun. And just to see everything through their eyes, whether it's getting on the metro in Boston, trying to figure that out. We had help from some kind of impatient Bostonians, but just the whole experience was just great fun. When we came back last year, I thought we can't top this, and we did top this, but I don't know if we can ever top it again. But a couple other people just to acknowledge and thank was our high school administration. When it happened on January 28th, it literally was thousands of miles away, and I don't know even for the kids if we really understood the significance of it. But when we came back to Cedarburg and we drove up Main Street and we had the fire truck leading the way, we started to understand it. Then we walked into high school and we had a gauntlet of 80 teachers cheering for us. Then I think it really hit home. It's like, wow, this really is cool. It was thousands of miles away when we brought it back here. So thank you to John Hannum and Adam Kurth and all our administration for doing that. Not to mention all the behind the works, administrative stuff that needs to go on to get us to do that. And also thank you to the board and district administration. It's tricky when you travel like this
because we qualified 2 years in a row, and we may never qualify again. You don't know if you should do fundraising or not. You might fundraise for a trip that these kids never go on, and you lose the money. And so in January, you guys passed financial support for us, and so we appreciate that. I suspect other clubs will take advantage of that as well. So thank you guys as well for your support.
I'd just like to say thank you to the guy who set all this up, my dad, Mr. Cullen, and Miss Lesmaster, who's not here right now, so big round of applause for him.
Any questions, board members?
I got a question. So you write this code, and however many miles away this thing is there, how does it work? Is there a time delay? Is somebody else, like, how does it physically work that you're watching this happen?
Sure. So there's the man in the booth with the red hair, if you saw it, seen the video. He takes our code, and then I think with NASA or ESA, puts it on the robots in the International Space Station. I think they have to do a little bit of testing to make sure it's safe and won't break anything because it's a little bit expensive up there. But so ahead of time, like, is what I would say. We submit it to MIT, and I think
End of December.
yes, so about a month in between the schedule of that.
So let me ask this, no gravity, how did you compensate for that here?
Right, so they actually have a lab that's kind of like a hockey table, it's just a little bit more expensive. And so it's a 2D hockey table, and it's made of glass, and it's very, very low friction. And they have these thrusters on the robot that can push it in those 2 dimensions, and to rotate it and do that on the space station is just 1 dimension, so it's not too much more.
Were you the only team that helped?
Yes. We had some acceleration code that was custom to what the other teams that used the libraries from MIT that did not perform as well.
Correct me if I'm wrong, our first ever world champions?
Yeah, we were trying to get a flyover when you were coming through town, but we didn't take a flyover, so we went with a fire truck. So, fire truck, accept our apologies. You know, I have to say, just when I hear these 2 presentations, Elizabeth and yours, Mike, and hear from the kids, you know, it warms my heart because what we do it for kids, providing opportunities and challenges and expanding the limits and leaning forward. And it's wonderful when we have that lean and we're recognized for that. You know, we're not out chasing these kind of accolades and trying to chase these awards and recognitions. It happens when it's really authentic learning, it's genuine, and we're doing it for the right reason, and that's exactly what occurred. And it's wonderful to be on the map. It's the right reason to be on the map because we're doing it because it's good for kids. So thank you, congratulations to all of you. It is something that's truly once in a lifetime. I think the young man said it, once in a lifetime. It's something that you made memories, and you made memories that you're going to probably tell your kids, and your kids are going to tell their kids. So congratulations. And parents, thank you for supporting your kids and encouraging them to continue down this road. It doesn't happen alone. It happens with a very supportive home. So thank you very much for being part of this occasion. Congratulations. So Adam, now it's your presentation. I jumped the gun earlier. Yeah. So,
Consent agenda.
No, you can't.
Should have gone first.
Yeah. Students and parents, thank you for being here tonight. Certainly are free to leave and watch, read, study, code. Thank you. So this evening, we're continuing with our school presentations. As you know, each school board meeting we have a presentation from one of the buildings or one of the departments here in the district office. And this evening, we're continuing, and it's the high school construction. And now, Alan will
two areas. One is something they want to celebrate. There are quite a few celebrations already that want to follow, and a particular area that they're working on to get student achievement.
lot of the presentation is going to be very reflective and last one. Our goal hasn't changed much, and I'll explain that a bit. We need a bit of longevity to our goal to make sure that the things that we're doing and putting in place are actually having that effect, and it takes years to do that. What you're seeing here is a couple pictures from today, our ACT day, ACT testing was today, and we sent our sophomores for the second year out to college visits. Very cool to see them tour around Wisconsin colleges and universities and visit some area industry, and to hear the positive feedback when they return about the great experience that they had.
Adam, can I interject just a minute back in that slide? I think you told me a piece that was new to me, that when the students are in Madison, for example, they actually meet the students from Cedarburg attending Madison.
Yeah, we do our best to connect with the alumni. We've actually had more discussion on it, because last year the alumni took them through the dorms and to some of their classrooms. It's a little different. This year we want it a little more formal, but still connected with the alumni. Great to see. So, just a list of celebrations from this year. We need to get into them. The two that we just celebrated are unable to be topped. So I just want to share the work that our staff and students have been doing, and a lot of the celebrations that we have. This is uncommon. I think I've said it for 3 straight years now. We're not confident in the amount of success that our students and staff have. But we do want to continue to celebrate it. Not get immune to the value of everything that's going on here. Okay, so a little touch. Last year's goals were college and career readiness for all students and closing the achievement gap with a focus on math. If you remember, Scott Bazine was here and joined me last year, a very eloquent teacher of ours who spoke to some of the pieces that are being put in place to support our students with math. Doing a really nice job. We continue that goal. We don't change our goals much until we really, like I said, we have a foundation that we know is really having an effect on our students, and really that it becomes part of our nature and a part of what we do, rather than things we're putting into place. So we continue with our math goal. Our 1-year goal is to move 20% of our students up a level. So basically students through the data that we receive, whether it be through the school report card, ACT, Aspire, multiple sources of data are traditionally identified in 4 different areas: below basic, basic, proficient, advanced. Our goal is to move 20% of those up a level. Okay. Our 3-year goal is for Cedarburg High School to increase the proficiency level to 50% proficient or advanced in language arts and math for special education. That is a focus goal for us. 50% may seem low. I'll show you why. It's a very difficult target to hit, as our students without disabilities oftentimes are very close to a 50% proficiency level. So that's our goal, and as an outcome of our work, we hope that our report card will continue to show an upward trajectory in closing the gap for our students. And I'll show you again a visual of that in a second here. So the why. These are just visual representations of our data over the past couple of years, and the struggle that we have as we look at the information that comes back to us. On the left side, you see the data for our students without disabilities and our students with disabilities. The blue line is without disabilities, the orange line is with disabilities. You can see the tremendous gap in the achievement of those two groups. The other piece of that is you can see a multi-year decline in the achievement of those two groups. And so as we see this, we know that the practices that we have in place for those students are not meeting the needs right now. And so on the right side are our students with socioeconomic students. And they together, along with English language learners, make up our super group, which is the common term that you'll hear from our state report card. So last year I showed you this exact slide, our super group with a consistent decline in their achievements. You can see from a 0.80 down to a 0.453. These are numbers which take a lot of math. I would have to ask our 2 math teachers who were just here to explain them, or Ms. Rose here next to me tried to explain them to an English teacher, and it didn't work. But you can see it's pretty clear that the consistent decline. And at the very top, you see our total score, 30.8 out of 100. So this was our 2017 state report card score for closing the gaps. Now last year, as I shared, and as Mr. Bazine shared, we put in these resources and supports for our students, really honed in on the the areas of struggle for our students, really try to work individually with our students on their gaps and increase their awareness of their own struggles and really help them to address those. And this year's state report card, you can see at the very top, 59.3, so a significant jump. And if you see the two scores, a little uptick in both language arts and math. So we're very happy that we're moving in the right direction at this point, but like I showed at the beginning, we'd like to see multiple years of improvement rather than just a single year. So we continue with the math pieces that we did last year that we shared, and these are some of the other pieces that we have offered for all students. Those of you who spent your nights reading our Cedarburg High School newsletter, I know most of you spend every night reviewing. This sheet of resource options were shared with our parents as well, so that our parents can see what options our students have and they can go to and they can receive support. Co-taught classes are being supported by Method Test Prep now, which is a program that hones in on specific skills and prepares those students for their assessments in those skills. And after school sessions are continuously being offered by our staff. So this year we've continued with the work in ALEX, and ALEX is the program that Mr. Benzine presented last year. Last year I think we had 13 students who were part of it, and this year we have 7 who are in that class who are receiving that, but we also stretched out to identify any special education students who did not meet ACT or Aspire benchmarks are now receiving ALEX supports, whether it be in their resource period or in their bullet block. And as you can see the numbers bulleted on the left there, we're up to 18 students now on top of the algebra support class. So we've more than doubled the number of students who are receiving that support in hopes that it continues to have a positive effect on their outcomes. So this year, same idea, closing the gap, only we've shifted our focus a little bit as we allow the math to continue to take hold to a focus on literacy. So LLI is the first and biggest piece that we brought in to support our students. Leveled literacy intervention. This is already a K-8 intervention that's used. And Ted Knoll, Pat Sorensen, and I met with the special education department, and they really crafted a way to build it into their to the bullet block for the students that was achievable, where it didn't take up time that was necessary for other pieces of their success at the high school, and really just allows the students to continue to grow in their literacy. Co-teaching, Liz Smith, who is our reading specialist, now is in classes and supporting literacy pieces and really working with teachers on embedding more literacy to support those goals and skills of our students. Sustained silent reading. This is new this year. One of the easiest pieces of data is the more you read, the better at it you get. There are levels of that you can really have more of an impact, but our staff is really committed to having reading built into their class period. But that reading isn't just go read and do whatever you need to. Our staff connect with the students to find a purpose to their read, and then they continuously follow up with those students and have discussions about the value of what they're reading and the purpose of their read. Method Test Prep, new this year, we've really embedded it 9th through 11th grade, and our English teachers have actually embedded it into their classroom. So a teacher will give instruction, the content specialist will give instruction, they do in-class work that supports that instruction, and then we use Method Test Prep as a gap filler. So where a student is still struggling, from the data that I'll show you in a little bit here, we can identify where a student is still struggling and support that with Method Test Prep, and we can do that during resource and bullet block as well. This is kind of one of those last ones where we all know intrinsic motivation is the best approach to learning. However, sometimes the Snickers will get a lot out of a kid, is what we say. And so we have extrinsically motivated some of our students this year, and we've met with them to ask kind of what would motivate them. Sometimes it's a Mountain Dew, pizza, some time off, just some time to relax, some time to play at an open gym. So we've met with them to find what motivates them to really to buy into their own learning. So that seems like a lot, but I want to clarify though, because everything that is occurring is individually based. So staff have viewed multiple sources of data and align each support to the needs of each student. So not every student is getting all of what I just talked about. They get the piece that's necessary for them to find success. And these are all the progress monitoring tools we use. Aspire, Interim, Method, Test Prep, Enriching Students, MAP, STAR, and ALEX all give us feedback and data. And I'm going to zip through some of that right now. So Aspire, these are the reports that we get from Aspire. A couple of main pieces is it shows us, if you can see in the box on the bottom right, clear indicator for which students meet the benchmark, and if students are below benchmark, it's easy to see which reporting categories need to be targeted. So our staff can get these and they can find out which skill is a deficiency for that student and really hone in on that skill, where in the past, we didn't have this type of data and our teachers were guessing, using their best judgment, or throwing a blanket approach on all students and hoping that they hit those gaps. STAR assessment, this is the exact slide that Scott Bladzine showed you last year. We love it because of the color coding, it shows growth. We assess our students about a monthly basis now, so we can track their growth throughout the year, and this gives us the most immediate feedback, and it's really a short assessment for our students, so quick assessment and instant feedback. MAP, the nice part about MAP testing, a different piece of data, is we use it through the middle school. So we really have an alignment of our data that carries them through the middle school, so 8th grade, so we can see the growth from 8th grade to 9th grade now, which is a really nice bonus for us to see, to track through middle school success and how they're growing there. And if our instructional methods are meeting the same growth as what the middle school was, because if there are those gaps or differences, then we can have that discussion with the middle school staff and find out what they were doing that created better growth. And you can see on the right, this is actually a sheet from our students. 4 of the 7 are in the top 25 percentile of their peers in their growth right now. So it really speaks to the work that our staff are doing. Enriching students, I just want to point out that 287 students attended at least one ACT skill session. Most attended multiple sessions. This does not include our special education students. So all of our students have opportunities to attend these sessions. These were, several years ago, these were only offered after school, and a lot of students couldn't make it to them to get that exposure. Now with the resource, with a little bit of structuring our resource, students have the ability to, whenever they have time that they don't need to meet with another teacher. And then method test prep. So this, what I'm showing you here is a report that shows we have several hundred students using it, 800 students about had access to it. This is the top 40, and the ones highlighted are special education students. So special education population makes up about 7% of our population, and about 25% are seeking additional, are in the top users of this program, which is showing that they're taking ownership of their own learning by doing this. This is, again, a clip right out of last year's presentation. We know the 2 greatest factors with the greatest impact on student learning are high quality instruction and additional minutes with differentiating instruction. Everything I showed you is number 2. We recognize that when we approach our instruction, we don't want to dive in too quickly, because what we're doing is working for the majority of our students, and we have a high level of learning that goes on in our class, so we don't want to disrupt that, but we do want to adjust it and look at it and see how we can do it better to meet all students. So that is a little bit of a slower drip in terms of looking at our instruction as a whole. And how we're doing that, we're reviewing data for all students, identifying supports within our own classes, and improving instructional approaches to meet the needs of all students. So when staff get reports like this, they can look at each one as a specific skill, and if you look at the middle column where it only has 3 green bars, that means 3 students are proficient. That teacher can then say, I'm missing on that skill. And they can really hone in on that in their own classroom. And we hope that as they go through their own data review, that their practices change to the point where it becomes a natural part of their classroom, and we see more green consistently. So that's part of what we're all aware of, is that our goal is really to change our instruction in the classroom to meet the needs, and then that'll meet the needs of 80 to 90% of our students. And what we're doing right now will support those students who need a little bit more support than we can offer in the classroom. So one of the things I do want to, I named a lot of programs today, but it takes people. I always it's people in that program that, and you saw two people here who are making the difference, who speak to the definition of this. Eric Olson and the entire special education department. Last year, at the beginning of the year, we really kind of threw the gauntlet out in front of them and said we need to do better. Eric has done a tremendous job of leading that department and getting student ownership in their learning. And the department has really stepped up and put in a lot of work. Scott Ledzine continues to do amazing things with our students. And our English department, who works with our struggling students, Jim Coos, Rowan Schley, Guy Blondie, and Liz Smith, are all doing tremendous things in the classroom out of a response to data. They saw it, they owned it, and they're doing better, meeting the needs of our kids. So that is it. A lot of information there. I went very fast. Very reflective of last year. We're really just trying to set our kids up for a lot of supports and very specific supports at this point. That's the last one. Okay. Questions? Sure.
I'm wondering, in that super group that was described earlier,
Yes,
how many
sir.
students are actually in that?
It varies anywhere from about 20 to a little over 30 maybe.
I had a quick question. One of the slides you showed, just maybe 2 or 3 back, was pretty interesting with the red and green situations for staff. That looked like an interesting thing for staff members to be able to use to analyze how their classroom education is going. Is that something that can be used year over year too? So they could look back and say, okay, I tweaked this year. How is it doing compared to the last 2 years? And so it's an ongoing.
It's an ongoing process. So Friday we have Professional Development Day, and 2 of our sessions during that time, staff can go and meet with Deanna Nelson, and she helps walk them through pulling their data and kind of creating these reports for their own students.
Well, it's very probably powerful for
Absolutely.
staff to how to treat their lessons.
That's a great question, Kevin, because, yeah, over time, they can see, are they consistently as a teacher, where are their kids scoring, and they can even, depending on the course it's offered, maybe compare it to a colleague. How are you scoring?
Yes.
And so are there some practices that you're doing that I'm not? Yeah.
No, it's very powerful.
Other questions? Kristen, Allen, anything to add in the data?
I just appreciate hearing the, it takes a village, all the people surrounding the students at the school to encourage and ensure their success. So I heard lots of that tonight, which is really exciting.
I appreciate your efforts.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
I think that concludes all of Adam's presentations for that. Okay. The next item that's under the soup update is the long-range master plan. We'll run through a quick slide presentation just to give the public an update where we are. Tonight we have Mike Groth there as well as Dan Davis. And you've seen this presentation or something very similar. Just a quick update on where we are. So this is the 4 topics we're going to touch on tonight. January, February activity, look ahead, deeper dive, and access to more information. Just want to say, as we go through this schematic design process, we continue to anchor all of our thinking in these 3 areas: learning spaces, school capacity, safety, and security. So any conversation we're having about designing spaces, how best to utilize a space, what are our practices and how do those practices require different spaces or any kind of security measures, we are always anchoring our thinking around these 3 components. And you'll see that rooted in the presentation tonight. Here's the preliminary design schedule. We're right where that red bar is, so we're in the midst of the schematic design. I'm starting to lean into the design development stages and beginning the process of developing budget. Much of what you're hearing tonight was reviewed at the B&G meeting, and we'll continue to go into those deeper dives at the committee level. But for the public, I want to make certain they see where we are in this process. So January to February, some great activity has occurred. I think one of the more outstanding items just to point out is the locked-in the final bond interest rate, and that is at a 3.52, which is outstanding. Potentially is going to cost avoidance of up to almost $4 million over the length of the loan, which is outstanding. That's our initial borrow. We will still have, I think, 2 more if I'm not mistaken. We had our first Tech Ed instructional team meeting, and that was just last night. We were here from 3 to 7 o'clock with the Tech Ed department, And that was a very fruitful conversation leading into the spaces. They were now talking about usage of those spaces and putting their equipment into those spaces, so to make certain that we get the right flow and the right pieces of equipment to accomplish our goals, and more importantly, to set us up for the future when we think about the course development we want to see in the future. Oh, one other item on lower right-hand corner, low voltage planning. We started that conversation looking at security, the bells, the clocks, the PAs, data, phones, fire alarms. Kirsten's in on that meeting, John Coster and engineers, and I'm not a part of that because that's over my head, but I have great confidence in what they're doing. But it just goes down to the detail. Like, we need to know where every wire is and where it's an incredible process that's extremely detailed.
This slide represents some of the content that's occurring in the teaching and learning department. So the one on the far left, the board took action on some recommendations 2 years ago regarding engineering content for the elementary level. So Rockenbach has been purchased, thank you to the Wheeler Foundation and Scott Pump and CEF. That's been funded, and it's actually in process being shipped to the district with training from a trainer from San Diego here in the district next month. So we're excited to really forge into these new lessons, and eventually all students 4K through 5th grade will have engineering lessons. The next two are actually courses that are in draft form. So the drone remote pilot, actually Ben Wynn, who's in the audience here, is a math teacher here at the high school who we happen to see flying drones in the field house for one of his math classes.
Kids are wearing helmets, they're all protected.
So kids did coding and actually had to fly drones in the field house, landing them on certain mats, and we had the opportunity to see that, and also knew simultaneously we were considering a drone class for the Tech Ed engineering design program. So we brought Ben into the mix, and we're connected with a company in California that has a drone remote pilot curriculum, and we're looking at implementing that here at the high school. That a junior, you have to be 16 years of age. You can take the class before that, but by the time you turn 16, you can actually be a certified drone pilot. So that would be a course that we're going to offer, pending curriculum committee and eventually board approval. Third area is a new course that's also in draft form, this digital tools and multimedia, which is a complement to the experiences students have at Webster, and taking it out of the high school. So just looking at multimedia and more digital opportunities to communicate market information here at the high school with students. So exciting things going on.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the drone class could be the first in Wisconsin.
Correct. Yeah, there was no, when we tried to link with any school system in the area, there was no one in the region at all, Midwest.
So pretty exciting to talk about that and think about our robotics playing field, and that could be a field that's used for drones as well. So really thinking about the versatility and flexibility of our spaces.
I think that's a great summer school class for the community members to be able to.
There's some career racks coming.
Oh, yeah. Number 16.
Finally fly the one I'm sitting in my house, I don't know how to fly.
So look ahead, just a timeline on things that you can anticipate in the next month. Our next Tech Ed instructional team meeting will be on February 27th. So last night, the Tech Ed team laid out on boards where their equipment would be in their spaces. They gave those boards to the architects. The architects are going back and now designing those spaces around where that equipment would be placed. So looking at ventilation, power, spacing to make certain all flows. And so on the 27th, those designs are coming back to the group, and we're going to provide feedback to the teachers and have a bit more of an exchange and dialogue around that. So we're very exciting. It's a very exciting time to really get into the detail of those particular spaces. Another item just to point out, we have the board workshop March 7th. I know that's on your calendars. That will be a deeper dive into all of our spaces. So we'll be able to look at the schematic design, all of our learning spaces throughout the district that are being touched through this referendum. So board members, I asked just to double check you have that date on your calendar, because all the work we're doing is leading up to that particular workshop. On this one, we are going to report back out to our Tech Ed Engineering, Art, and Design Advisory Team. That's a team that works with industry experts, and we've had a number of those meetings. And so the goal is to actually have our Tech Ed department report out to the members of our community, and this is where we are with our spaces. So they are actually going to champion and be the ambassadors of their spaces and what those spaces look like for the immediate future and for future courses. On this slide, again, a number of items that are occurring, but the one I want to draw your attention to is on March 27th, we worked with the Cedarburg Education Foundation, we being myself and Alan, submitted a proposal. The Velo Corporation awarded us with over $100,000 in a grant, and it's over 4 years. And you can see the year one, elementary engineering, modeling tools in each of the subsequent years. So on March 27th, representatives from the Velo Corporation, who owns Scott Pump and Wheel Pump here in Cedarburg, are going to be here to present us with that check for over $100,000, and the focus is on those 3 areas. You'll know that year three, you'll note that CHS robotics competition field, that's something that's in our plan. So we allocated money for that through the referendum, so that's now money that we can reallocate in some other area. So we're pretty excited about that. On this slide, you'll notice that we're into June, May and June, and so we have the bid package and construction documents. That looks like the first time it's going to come to the board in June. And then if you look at the check at the bottom there, July and August, we'll review, and hopefully we'll get, not hopefully, we will plan construction beginning in the summer and early fall. So we're moving along. Deeper dive, we have 2 areas we're going to focus on. The first is the long-range master plan. Dan Davis is here to talk a little bit about that. Board, you've heard about this long-range master plan. We don't want to spend a lot of time, but we're excited to bring this plan forward. And the one thing I can say about the plan is it's not done. The plan is always going to evolve. There's always going to be data to add to it. It's always going to be under revision, but we have the essence, the format, the framework of the plan done, and it's filled at this time, but it's going to evolve as new boards come on, new members, and we continue to look at the data and tweak our roadmap.
Thanks, I'm Dan Davis from CD Schmidt. I'm just here to report on the document. It was really a work of a lot of different people, a lot of people sitting in the room, including Growth Design. Alan Growth had a big piece of that. Ben putting data together, John Coster, Todd. There were a lot of outside consultants that helped as well. So it really represents a culmination of a lot of work, and really when you think about it, and you look at those old timelines, it started about 3 years ago. And the challenge always is with these kinds of reports is to put them into a format that you can actually use. And so I think the team really did a great job summarizing it and put it into a format that we can use. So it really compiles all the work that's been done, the process, the results, conclusions and recommendations for the district in all their facilities, and incorporates how curriculum really is part of that. We also go back to everything that we do, goes back to those 3 themes and focus areas. And so what we've really kind of done is put together a 27-page report. Now it sounds like a lot, but there's a few key things I want to point out, and I'll be brief. But what we really try to do is these are the bullet points, that it's quick and easy to find conclusions. So we've seen, if you go online, you can see other districts' long-range master plans, and they're really just a bit of a mess sometimes, and they're hard to find, you can't find the recommendations. So you can go right to a section, you can find it, and read the conclusions. That's all boiled down very quickly. But as the second bullet point says, you can go right to the detail if you want to drill down and find what the real detail was of the 200-page reports that are backing up all the data. It does show all the involvement that we have with the community as part of the process. And they're also shown the projects that result from all of this are shown kind of in 2 groups. There's the portion that's in the referendum, that's moving ahead, that Mike Grohl's going to give you a quick update on, and then future projects. And those future projects are if there's more growth, and if there needs to be changes in the curriculum, what can happen. And then lastly, as far as those future projects, particularly focused on elementary growth, there's future offsite options for future boards or this board to consider eventually, and zones that they might look at eventually if the needs change. And then we recommend that we update the report every 3 to 5 years so that it does remain a living document. So it's easy to use. It is available. It will be after tonight online to take a look at, and all those links are there. And we will have hard copies as well as electronic copies in the district office. That's the very short version of how to use it. And then we have started with, obviously, the design, as Todd mentioned, and Mike Grohl's here to give a quick update on the schematic design.
So as Todd mentioned, we are in schematic design, and just some of the activities that have occurred over the past couple months. We've had numerous tech ed advisory meetings, core team meetings, such as our Tuesday morning 7 o'clock meeting, which is fun at 7 in the morning. I see Karen every morning at the coffee shop grabbing coffee. Multiple individual department meetings, and then the last piece is just our engineering team. If you remember, under our umbrella, we have multiple consultants that we bring in: structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection. So we've had numerous kickoff meetings with them as well. They've been walking through the facility. With the individual departments, we've been giving questionnaires, and the questionnaire really gets into adjacencies of their space, the findings of their space, what are the things they like, what they don't like, how it relates to their curriculum that they're going to be offering. That just gives us some guidance as we start to push and pull on spaces within the buildings. Just some of the insights as it relates to the three components, teaching and learning, some of the changes that we've unraveled as we started talking to the various groups. So for instance, teaching and learning the book room, we're starting to look at taking the existing presentation rooms in Thorson and Parkview and manipulating that space into book rooms. Under capacity, if we look at gym, original idea was to keep the gym rather rectangular. Now it's become a little more boxier for better seating and some other activities. The cafeteria and the kitchen, the old gymnasium in Thorson and Parkview. Originally we had the kitchen across the hallway, now it's coming within that space, just because as we look at the seating capacity of those spaces, it gives us opportunity to bring the cafeteria within the old gymnasium, which makes it easier for just logistics of that space. And then just the last one is security and safety and security. There's been some uncovering there. One just relates to right here at door 48. We're looking at how we can use, right now there's 2 people, right, Todd, that really do check in, and they're not more than 6 feet apart, but can't see each other, so maybe there's something we can do there so it can be supervised by one person. So that's some of the things that are going on in schematic design. There's a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes. So I have a lot of staff in the office. We've been taking all the existing drawings, crawling through the buildings, and entering that into our programs. And some of you got to see that at the building and grounds, the 3D modeling that we use as we step forward. So after schematic design is done, then we step into design development. And that's just another layer of detail that we bring onto each one of the spaces, and also how we detail and construct the building. So.
So board members, everything that we're working on now is going to lead up to that March 7th workshop where we'll do a deeper dive with the board members that will be in attendance. Site work will be shared. We're starting to push on the fixtures, FF&E, budget development, so you'll start seeing some numbers, and the kitchen designs. And this evening, I think one of the items that's an action item is the kitchen consulting. So we are moving ahead and looking forward to some future work. Again, more access. We are redesigning our website, so all the information that I've presented tonight and information that's tied to the long-range master plan is all on our website. So, in fact, we still have a FAQ there, and if someone has a question, they can submit a question to our website and we have a response. So we'll continue to populate that. And game time, thank you. So this is from last Friday night. I think we were, that's Parkview. John Hannum has done a wonderful job of showcasing some of the elementary schools. I think the week before it was Thorson, and got to see Angela shoot a free throw, which was pretty good. I don't think Jane shot a free throw or a layup. I think they were doing a layup. But it's wonderful to have our students at the ball games. Questions, board members, that you may have regarding the long-range master plan status? Thank you. think we're gonna keep on rolling, and the next item is the consent agenda. And so board members, I'll ask you to approve the minutes from the January 16th board meeting, as well as the district financial information, including summary of accounts, check register, check detail, and credit card transaction report. And notice that there is no personnel report this month.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes unanimously. Superintendent notes.
Yep, we did. I think we are on to the recommendations of action. So first item, board members, is the approval of the kitchen consultant. As part of the building project, food service kitchens at all the buildings are being enhanced or remodeled. RFPs were sent to 3 kitchen consultants, and 3 bids were returned. Out of the 3 consultants, E.H. Canning had the lowest bid. Canning's low bid was vetted to confirm the scope of the work and the quality work, and it was recommended at the B&G that we approve E.H. Canning as the kitchen consultant.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes.
Excellent. The next item is the approval of the Parkview roofing contractor. As part of the building project, the district bid out the Parkview roof replacement early in order to get a favorable number. The bid included a base bid of approximately 48,000 square feet and an alternative of approximately 11,000 square feet of the roof area that would be affected by construction. 2 separate roofing systems were put out to bid, and they sent it out to 5 qualified contractors. 3 responded and came back with a bid of $647,020. John is here to provide any additional background. In board docs, you received the bids. This was part of one of the capital improvements that the board wanted to include in the referendum. If you recall, most of those capital improvements were removed, but because of the size of this particular project, the board felt that it should be part of the referendum, and so it was part of the referendum. And we're trying to get a jump on this early, mainly because the roof is at a stage where it could leak at any point, and we wanted the roof to be replaced before the new addition is added. Anything to add, John?
No, we went out to 5 vendors. Of the 5 vendors that we went out to, we had walkthroughs with those 5 vendors, only 3 returned it, so that's kind of a testament to what's out there in the marketplace. It's a clean job, it's an easier job, and to only get 3 to respond back, it was a little bit disconcerting, but the numbers we got are about $11 a square foot, so we're in that ballpark. A little over budget, but not terrible. The low bid was Cudahy with EPDM rubber, fully adhered membrane. It's atypical to the roofs that we're putting on, but EPDM rubber's come a long way, and we had a long conversation with building grounds about it. We're very comfortable putting that on. It's a 30-year roof, and very easy to repair also.
I'll move to approve the contract with Cudahy.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just wanted to make a quick comment to reinforce that we did talk about, a lot of our roofs are built-up roofs, and this is an EPDM system, which is very common around the country, very common roof system, and what they're using is like the best version of that, so we should get a very long lifetime.
We will, absolutely.
It's not a 15 or 10-year roof, it's really a 25, 30-year roof system, so I think it's a great alternative, and it was less expensive.
It was.
So
We saved about $42,000, and that money's very valuable to us in this project. I know we have a large number out there, but as you'll see, it's gonna become tighter and tighter, and we feel that this money is valuable in other places.
So what you're also saying is that it's good that we moved ahead on this,
Oh, yeah.
following your recommendation.
We probably would have been in the $13 to $14 a square foot range if we would have waited another month or 2. They're just locked up. All their work is booked up. They'll take a job, but they'll put another crews on it and they'll charge you more.
So the plan is to get it done this summer.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes.
Excellent. Next item. Yep, thanks, John. Next item is revision to the gifted and talented plan. I'll let Ken speak to that.
That's that we have in front of the board, the single revision to our gifted and talented plan at the February 7th curriculum board meeting. We reviewed the change. It was a revision requested by the EPI After we submitted it for final approval, they put it in front of the notice advise, and they felt they needed another revision. So we did make that revision and brought that to the committee, and the DPI has assured us that based on this final revision, we should get a final approval from the DPI that releases from corrective action.
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, at the curriculum committee, we discussed whether or not, despite it coming from the DPI, that it was actually a good addition or a good change, and you said that it was, and
Yes.
and it was a good idea, and we were going to look for that reason.
Correct.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes.
Excellent. Next item, approval of donations. Board members will approve these as a consent agenda. First is a recommendation to approve the grants totaling $10,630 for our robotics program at the high school and for the 4 robotics teams at Webster. This grant is from the DPI, so it's a competitive grant that we applied for. The second item is $500 from Hubry and Abraham to be used for the CHS robotics program. Third donation is $550 from the Ozaki Congregational Church to be used by our CHS robotics team. The fourth donation is the amount of $2,500 from Maui Securities. This donation is used to support Nels Dinner Dance. And the last donation is the amount of $3,000 from Wood Specialties Incorporated. This donation will be used to support the CHS Woods classes.
Move to approve.
Second?
Any discussion on these? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes.
Excellent. Board members, the next item is an item regarding the changing of our school district boundaries. I presented some background information to the board. The request is to change the boundaries from Cedarburg to the Mecklenburg School District. 3 site addresses are named in the petition and are located at North Granville Road, south of Pioneer Road, on the east side of the road. Currently, there are no houses on the petition properties. However, there are a number of houses in the area that have or have had active students in our system. Approving the detachment would have a negative impact on our resident enrollment, which could impact our revenue limit and state aid negatively. The detachment would have a negative impact on the overall Cedarburg taxpayers. The background information is there, and I believe we may have someone who's going to speak on it. Because this is an agenda item, the pleasure of the board, we can engage with the petitioner who's here this evening. You can take the mic. If you don't mind just stating your name and address, please.
Sure. I'm Jennifer Worth. I live at 12517 North Canyon Lane in Mequon. First, thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you. I really appreciate it. To give you a little bit of background on why I'm here, obviously, to petition for the boundaries to be moved. My husband and I jointly own this 40-acre property with my brother-in-law, which is the northern border of the Mecklenburg School District. Both families currently do live elsewhere in the district and have 6 kids enrolled there in total. So, no students would at this point be removed from Cedarburg School District. And as you said, there are 3 addresses that were stated on your agenda. Those are going to be resurveyed down to 2 addresses because, again, there's only going to be 2 single-family homes built on this property. So just to note that as well. We've owned this land since 2010 and had access to it prior to taking over ownership. This land would not be further subdivided other than these 2 properties or 2 addresses, so just take note of that also. I understand that these petitions are unlikely to be approved, but I feel that it's time, for both school districts to start to consider, moving these boundaries and keeping the, Mequon properties with the Mequon Municipal School District. So Some other things to consider is the travel time. Educational needs of our students are obviously already being met in Painesville, which is obviously where we would like to stay. I'm not sure I understand the detachment effects in terms of the tax dollars and things like that. Obviously, that would be removing from the Cedarburg School District. But obviously, from our perspective, we would like to keep those tax dollars in Painesville. But we wouldn't be affecting your enrollment because we are currently not enrolled here and would like to do open enrollment process through Painesville. So all of our students are bright students, and us as families, we just contribute. We're already there. We contribute to the Painesville School District, the Education Foundation, activities, PTOs, sports, and things like that. So we'd like to have our children stay where they've already started their education. So although I can tell that Cedarburg is a great place to be, as I've seen from all your recognitions and celebrations tonight, we just want to stay where we're at. So again, I really appreciate the time and the feedback and the information and learning how this process works. But again, we hope that the school boards start to consider taking a look at the boundaries on that southern side of your school districts.
Questions? I've got a quick question, if I could ask. The two of them, when you purchased the land in 2010, were you aware it was in the Cedarburg School District?
Probably, and I think we had the intentions, if I can think back that far, and this was almost pre-children even. But, you know, it was, I had said we had access to the land prior to that, so it was really hunting land for my husband and my brother-in-law. And I feel like our thought process at the time was, you know, we'll build on it eventually, maybe in our retirement years or something like that. But now the time has come where we're kind of outgrowing our home in Mequon, and we're kind of ready to build a little bit sooner than maybe we originally thought. So life changes.
Sure, absolutely. I've got one other follow-up question. In the past, I don't know when, but a number of years ago, we had another neighboring district. Some families want to move into our district. And one of the arguments they made, which I personally felt was compelling, was the distance to the school district they were in was much further to each of their elementary school, middle schools, and high schools, a much further drive. And in this case, I think some research was done in each of our elementary and middle school and high schools are about, not quite half, but about half the distance to the Mequon schools, which to me was a compelling argument from those other people were making, which never went through. Nothing happened, but I thought that was a compelling issue to look at when looking at schools like we do have on our other border with Grafton. We've got a school, Dorset School, right there on the border, and it serves the people in Grafton because they can walk to school. You won't be able to walk from your location. But that was a compelling discussion at that point in time. And you are aware, because your kids go to the Mequon schools now, you're aware that distances are further, if you will.
Yes, although it's really, you know, not that far. It's something, obviously, we wouldn't have the opportunity, I don't think, for transportation, you know, but, you know, I think I clocked it one day, it was like maybe 6 miles or something like that to the nearest elementary and middle school, so.
Have you investigated the open enrollment likelihood if you were gonna live there and live or remain in our district, would they still take you?
I believe so, yeah. So, maybe a formality, but it's worth a try.
Any other questions? Comments? Thank you very much for staying up there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. And your patience for waiting to get to this.
So board members, there's a motion before the board to either accept or deny the request to change the school district boundaries. Someone needs to make a request.
I'll move to deny. Sorry.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion on this?
I would like to also make a note, this has been the boundaries for many, many decades. I don't even know how long, but many, many years. I think that the options are still available to you if you choose to go to the Mequon School District through open enrollment that you've looked into already. I think our schools are actually closer by, about, as we talked about before. I think there's compelling reasons not to start to make a change.
I'd really love to have you go to our schools.
The other thing is, it's
Don't
not
say that's
just
any
about,
world champions either.
it's not just about the current resident either, it's in the future.
Right, correct.
It's kind of a precedent we've set.
I don't know how, it may be challenging for the next owner to have to be in the pipeline district, to Kevin's point, and have that distance, and we've got the other schools really close.
I think Kevin's point is on that these boundaries have been there for a long time. And districts have respected each other's boundaries over the years. I'll take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
So, I would be amiss if I didn't backtrack to the donations and just point out that the total, thus far this year for the 18-19 school year is $99,104.57, almost $100,000 in donations from the community. I'd be grateful to say that.
That's great, that's good information.
Is there anybody here that would like to speak? That saves me a page and a half of reading.
I was gonna read it.
Well, Mr. Creer could read it. Committee reports. First one up would be the curriculum committee. That'd be Rick.
Yeah. Two were covered tonight already. We talked about the Lilo CDF grant, and we talked about the, we already approved the other, and Alan, you want to just take the other two? The report card.
So I presented to the curriculum committee of the board that the current Com Arts report card descriptors are old. So in a typical review process of updating report cards, those need to now mirror our instructional practices with literacy collaborative. So I have a literacy steering team that's helping to guide the process, so we share with them what's all occurring. It's about a year-and-a-half process of looking at new descriptors, vetting them through students, parents, and teachers, and aligning the descriptors with our current practices. So I shared that with them. We currently are underway with a math curriculum review and actually have done a trial test on 2 resources, and the curriculum committee will actually hear more about this again next week. So there's one in particular that we want to do a deeper trial on, shared about that, and shared about the grant. Gave an update on the tech ed engineering committee meetings that we've been having and what some of those, the contents of those have been. Also talked about the 7-year cycle. So the 7-year cycle is an approach to keep on track with updating really departments throughout the school system. That 7-year cycle was disbanded many years ago, so to be responsive to changes in standards and the needs of our students, it's a more responsive cycle. Sometimes there's challenges with that because a lot of areas can collide with one another. So I shared an approach specifically showing the impact on kindergarten through 5th grade and how a 4-year cycle would look for that level, and then also showcased a few of the other departments under review, like 6-8 science and 9-12 English. So lots of exciting things occurring in the system and just the coordination of that.
I guess it's just real quick from the committee side, we wanted to make sure there was, the report card was put out to the parents, so they get an idea of what the changes are, and that's, we can get some feedback from them. And we also, that math curriculum that is going to be looked at closer, that's available for all board members to be able to see in board docs.
That's good. Kevin, B&G?
We covered most of the items tonight. We did talk about the long-range master plan. Is that an action item?
It is not, it's just a report to the board.
Go through that. The kitchen consultant item that we covered already improved. The schematic design is starting to take shape and starting to be able to see spaces in each of the schools and kind of how they're allocated. It's still schematic, but they're making progress on that, which is wonderful to see. And we've got that meeting on March 7th with the board to go through that and get feedback from all the board members and where we're at. And budget numbers at that point in time too, just checking where we're at with our budget numbers.
Excellent. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn into executive session. A, to approve the minutes of January 16, 2019. B, the board board may adjourn into executive session to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance, evaluation data of any public employee over which governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility pursuant to 1985 1C of Wisconsin statutes, supervisor goals, administration, and teacher compensation. C, the board may adjourn into executive session to consider strategy, crime prevention. Read the rest of that, and then 9 would be into adjourn into open session.
I'll adjourn into executive session.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.